And you're welcome back to our special coverage for the day 2 of our live coverage of the Ondo State gubernatorial election. As voting has concluded and collation will soon begin, we delve into one of the most critical aspects of any election: security. The safety of voters, election officials, and materials is pivotal in determining voter turnout and the overall credibility of the process.
So our focus today is on election security, as has been noted, and its impact on voter confidence. To shed more light on this, we are joined by Cornelius Owolewa, Movement Coordinator of Ready to Lead Africa.
There's a mistake there. Apologies. It's Emmanuel Aje. He is part of the team there at Ready to Lead Africa in Ondo State. Emmanuel, apologies. We were supposed to have Cornelius, but we just got the information. It's you, Emmanuel. Emmanuel, once again, many thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Apologies for that.
It's fine. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Emmanuel, let's get started now with the general overview of what we saw yesterday. What's your assessment of the security measures put in place for the election? Let's also have in mind everything that has come from before that, the instances that we had and the red flag areas that were noted. Did they address key safety concerns of voters in Ondo State, do you think?
Okay, thank you very much. We all know that the Sunshine State, that's Ondo State, is a predominantly peaceful state normally, you know. And during the elections, we witnessed a lot of tranquility and peace in the state, you know. But there were some technical, at least over 20-something thousand. Let me not say 20-something thousand. I don't know the numbers now, but lots of security agencies were deployed for the election. I think in their hundreds of thousands. It wasn't a bad one, but there were some issues in some places at some point in time in Akure South. I can't remember the there were issues, and the security agencies swiftly came and sorted it out. There was also there was allegedly a ballot snatching in Idorin yesterday. The videos were online, media outlets carried it, so it wasn't too bad. I would say, like, let me say 80% like security-wise in the state, it was a good one. But security agencies really need to look into the issue of this ballot snatching thing in some of these prone areas, you know. That's how it happened.
It's funny you should mention Idanre again, because we had guests yesterday actually specifically note that Idanre seems to be a very hot spot when it comes to election disturbances. And you mentioned that there was one yesterday with the videos on social media. Why is it so with Idanre? Why are there so many issues arising from this part of Ondo State?
You know, for me, I would just say it's the political, like, terrain, you know, the political terrain in that area. Like, I think that's how they play their politics. Like, if you should date it back to 2019 elections, these are some of the things that have been happening, like, not just now. So it's, if historically, if you should look at it, it's something that has been occurring even before now. And the call to action should be that security agencies should look into these hotspots to eliminate any form of issues like this moving forward.
Right. Let's also talk about just pretty much the challenges. And I mean, I understand that Ready to Lead initiative also had observers on the ground at Ondo there across the over 3,000 polling units across the 18 local government areas of the state. What were your observations that with some key challenges or lapses that stood out for Ready to Lead initiative?
I want to highlight about 5 issues that happened yesterday. Like, the first was Beaver's challenges. There were delays with accreditations at several polling units in different local government areas of Ondo State. Another one was accessibility to people with disabilities. There were issues, poor accessibility, like, you know, many people that were with disabilities were finding it difficult to get to the polling centers. You know, there are lots of barriers, blockages, gutters. There wasn't really much of provision for people with disabilities. That was another point that we noted. Then there was also issues of vote buying that we, Ready to Lead Africa, noted. Like, it was excessive in various local government areas. I wouldn't want to go into the amounts that were being shared. Well, it happened, it was everywhere. Like we were getting reports from almost every local government talking about the same thing: vote buying, vote buying, vote buying. People kept. In fact, there was one that happened on. I wouldn't mention the TV station. It was they interviewed a particular woman just to ask her about the outcome of the election, and she said it was good. And the next thing was that she was just saying it was in Ondo South Senatorial District. She was just like, we were paid, you know. So it was crystal clear, visible to the blind that there are a lot of vote buying like across the state. There was also interference by security personnel. Like many of our observers had issues when they got to the polling units to observe elections. They were stopped from, observing elections. Many of them were told that we didn't get like a notice about you being an election observer, even though INEC had already given us approval issues. And then also the logistical and operational delays, in some of these local government areas where the sensitive materials and some of the officials didn't come on time, to the polling. But overall, it wasn't a bad outing, There would always be issues.
Emmanuel, let me ask you about vote buying. Let's settle on that first, because there's so much you outlined, from disenfranchisement of the PWDs to the obstruction of observers going into the polling unit to observe the elections, to the security challenges that you face, also late deployment of materials. But vote buying is something you said, you repeatedly said it was a lot. It was a lot.
Yes.
It was rampant. And not to indict any political parties or any candidates, but did any of your observers get to speak to those who sold their votes, and what were their reasoning behind doing this? And do they know that it's a crime?
Well, thank you very much for that question. The thing is, poverty has been weaponized, so I am not encouraging it. So many of them on a normal day you don't expect someone that has a reasonable bank account, like amount in his or bank account, to sell his or vote. So I feel it's an economic thing. Like many people are suffering, like hunger is everywhere, So when they just get an opportunity during elections to get some money, maybe I don't know the amount that was shared, they jump at it because of the hunger and the economic situation that they have found themselves. Although it's what we are totally against. So I think it's due to the economic situation that is making many people do it.
Now that you've noted that, you've just taken us back to a previous conversation regarding the demography of people who are actually selling their votes, and we already identified from the past that it's actually people who are vulnerable, people who have responsibilities, people who want to take better care of their families, and that was why we were advocating for a broader system where people who are also well aware also can be a big part of voting. Now, regarding the security implications for the elections from yesterday and the deployment of 35,000 personnel, by the way, you were looking for that number, 35,000 personnel to Ondo State, do you think that this had a great impact on the voter turnout or apathy? Do you think security being present is also one of the factors that tells whether people come out or not? And in this case, how would you score it? Where would you put it? There was security presence, so how well did that help the situation when it comes to voters?
Well, the thing is, it's just a day. When we look at advanced countries, I was speaking with a friend on Friday, and he was talking about New Zealand. I think he observed the elections during New Zealand, and I think he worked during the elections, and he told me that, in fact, everyone was going about their normal business, and there was no form of distraction. Everybody was going about their normal business, So I think moving forward in Nigeria, in fact, we really need to work on a lot of systemic changes that would accommodate even people moving going about their normal business and moving down to the polling unit to cast their votes. It should be simplified, you know. There are lots of issues.
Emmanuel Aje there. He is part of the team at Ready to Lead initiative in Ondo State. His internet seems to be having the gremlins from yesterday, but we'll make sure to make that establishment, that connection with him again. Seemed to be a bit of connectivity issue. Just Emmanuel Aje there talking to us about the challenges, what they observed as observers during the elections. They are part of a group which is called Ready to Lead Initiative, organization that is about just observing the elections. Emmanuel, you're back. Please continue.
Yes, I'm back. I think the network had some glitch.
Yeah, please continue your submission.
Yes, like I was saying, people need to feel safe going to their polling unit to cast their ballots, to elect their representative. You know, this is an off-cycle election for Ondo State. So there was much more than enough time, you know. So moving forward, I think it would still be an off-cycle election in 2028, you know. So there is much more than enough time for security agencies, critical stakeholders, civil society organizations, relevant agencies to come together, go back to the drawing board and see what we can do to ensure that more people are able to come out and feel safe voting at their various polling units, most especially in Ondo State, because we are discussing about the outcome of the Ondo State elections. So, yeah.
Emmanuel, I have to ask you, right? We've said that the security detail have done pretty much well, satisfactory. There we go, in ensuring a security and the populace were able to come out to cast their vote. But how would you score the structure? And that's a joint effort of INEC and the joint security agencies. I know that you were saying that as observers going in there to do your jobs, they didn't let you because they didn't get the information. So how would you score that joint effort between all three?
Well, the thing is, it wasn't, you know, there would always be issues. Like, it's just, I don't know, there would always be issues. Even in America, I saw a video, I think the other day during the election, someone put a firework into the ballot box and it exploded. You know, there would always be issues, but it can be minimal. Like, it should, there are some certain things that should not happen, like on maybe issues of not allowing observers to do their job. But I'll commend INEC on the elections because it's an off-cycle election and they did pretty good to ensure that there was lots of stability in the elections. But moving forward, there are some salient issues that need to be addressed.
Let's address those issues. Let's address those issues now. What are those salient issues that need to be addressed? And as you know, from your observations, what then would be the proper recommendations?
Yeah, proper recommendation. The beavers shouldn't have any issues at all. We shouldn't be having delays with accreditations at polling units moving forward. Accessibility to people with disabilities, you know, people with disabilities should be able to come into polling units and vote without any form of restraint or constraint. You know, vote buying should be criminalized, you know, whereby you know that although kudos to the Department of State Security, they did a very great job, you know, at various polling units, making seizures of monies that were brought to several polling units, you know. So interference by security personnel should be kind of reduced, and then these logistics and operational delays that we are having we shouldn't be having this, you know. It's an off-cycle election, so you know there's always much more than enough time, and there's a budget allotted for all of these things. So when we have an off-cycle elections, there needs to be more time to plan and prepare, you know, for the unexpected, and also ensure that there is an hitch-free election. It may not be 100% good, but at least we should have like 90. If we have 90%, 95%, it's a welcome development, and from my end, it's not a bad idea if we have something better moving forward.
Emmanuel, can you walk me through the process for after elections with organizations like yours, after observing all of these details from your members that are spread across an election process? What happens to all the information that you get? Where does it go? Is it utilized by INEC or the government for after? Or is it just simply what it is, just simply for observation and making sure that nothing goes awry? So what do you do with all of this, and how does it add to the greater concept of elections in Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you very much. As a leading civil society organization in Nigeria, to lead Africa, we are not just doing this for the sake of doing this. We've had pre-election analysis. We deployed election observers across Ondo State, and then we are going to be having post-election analysis where we would be meeting with critical stakeholders. You know, all of these issues that we have raised, we are going to come together with other civil society organizations and relevant agencies, both security. We will have town hall engagements, you know, to ensure that we give them these recommendations so that moving forward, these issues will be addressed. Thank you.
Right. Emmanuel, so you said something. You said that you also do like pre-election preparation ahead of the elections, but also Ready to Lead initiative advocates, electoral reforms advocate, and also you observe the elections, right?
Yes.
So this is going to be a twofold question, but let me start. When you were out observing the election, was the turnout impressive, especially around the riverine areas?
Yeah, thank you very much. When we looked at the statistics of the permanent voters card for 2024, we had a slight increase. We had about, I think, 2-point-something million that got produced, and about 1-point-something million voters card was collected. And when we look at the senatorial districts or local government areas that picked up their permanent voters card more, it was from the riverine area. That's from Ondo South. We talk about Aje, we talk about Ondo. These are places where many of the both leading political candidates of PDP and APC are coming from. So we had a lot of people pick up their voters card from these local government areas. Also, I think Ondo East also had a large turnout of people getting their voters card. So there were lots of people that came out. You know, when we have political gladiators from the senatorial district coming out for elections, you should expect that many people from the community would want to come out to vote for their preferred candidate. Thank you.
I mean, with that being said, right, in terms of, Emmanuel, you keep doing that thing and it distracts me so much. I don't know why you do that. It's so distracting. Yeah. But anyway, so with the turnout, right, would you say, when you look at the numbers of the turnout, although I think it's too early to say, but was the youth turnout impressive, or, you know, it wasn't impressive?
Well, there are lots of young people that came out to vote, actually. A lot of young people. A lot of young people. You know, young people have the zeal, they have the energy, they have the strength, they have everything. So a lot of young people came out to vote during these elections, from what we have been able to see and observe.
That's nice.
Well, that's very impressive that there's a lot of youth involvement when it comes to voting, especially in this Ondo elections. But what would you say to the arguments that the youth are not really participating in governance, or in what was the other one now, Judith, if you remember?
Participation, governance, and
then there was another one. There's voting, participation in
civic
governance.
responsibility.
I can't remember the third one. But what would you say to that argument that, yes, while we are ready to vote, we are unable to govern? How can we transit into governance as youth? I'm no longer a youth in any case, but how is that possible with all, Judith is shaking her head, with all the information and data that you've gathered? How can that help youth to actually transit and break that barrier from being allowed to vote into being able to govern as well?
Yes, first of all, I would like to reference Yaga Africa and to the executive director of Yaga Africa, Samson Itodo, for doing a very great job allowing more young people to run for public office, giving them the relevant support. There's a convergence that happens, I think, almost every 4 years that brings all political candidates that are youths from all political parties together in Abuja, where they get to train them and empower them on how to run for public office and win elections, And this has helped a large number of them. Some of them have gotten into political offices like the House of Assembly positions, House of Representative positions, Some of them have gotten various appointments. And I will also kudos the President, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He has done a great job at the national level, giving us ministers that are young. For example, Ayodele Olawande, the current Minister of Youth, is around 34 years, if I'm not mistaken. The former Minister of Youth, Jamila Bill, I think she was 35 years. We have several senior special assistants to the President that are kind of very young, like Ayo Adeagbo, SSC, to the President on creative economy. We have lots of young people at the national level that are holding one key position or the other, maybe as a minister or as a senior special advisor. Now, down to the subnational, let me commend His Excellency of Ondo State, Engineer Seyi Makinde. He was able to appoint Dr. Seun Fakorede at 27 years of age to be a commissioner for youth and sports. At 27 in 2019, currently he is the executive advisor to Ondo State government on youth and sports. So what I would just say here is that more political leaders should understand that the government is about inclusion, it's about inclusiveness. It's about bringing more young people on board to be part of the government. You can't, as a young person, you can't force yourself to be in governance. If the political leaders don't give you that opportunity, there is nothing you can do. So the call to action is that the subnational, since the national is doing a great job on putting more young people into political offices, the subnational should replicate this, and Ondo State should also do this. I am the convener of the Ondo We Want, and the Ondo We Want is an Ondo State where we have a very young person and vibrant. We have a lot of young and vibrant people that are in government in Ondo State now, but we want more younger people to occupy positions like commissioner positions and heads of so maybe some agencies. When we have some young people that are capable, that have verifiable track records, in these positions, we begin to see things from the inclusion and inclusiveness angle. And also people with disabilities can be given more opportunities also to be part of the governance, in our dear state and our dear country. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Many thanks for that one. We switch gears now because we have another guest joining us. He's going to be live on here. Is none other than Dr. Olorunfemi Ayodele. He's the Labour Party governorship candidate for Ondo State, and he joins us live now.
Ms. Ayodele, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. I would like to ask you a quick assessment of the processes.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, sir. A quick assessment of the process.
Thank you for having me, and good morning, Nigeria.
Yeah.
Good morning.
All right, sir. So, sir, we'd like to just start by asking a quick assessment from your end of the processes that went down yesterday in Ondo State. How would you rate security, INEC's preparedness for the election, and the voter turnout?
Well, first and foremost, the security was good. I left Akure to my village to cast my vote yesterday, and I had with me a few tags, which also provided access for me to travel from Akure to Ajowa Akoko in Ondo State. That is the boundary town. And I saw both the military, the police, everybody on the road doing their job and doing their job perfectly well. So the various polling units I attended yesterday, I visited yesterday, things went normally. And to me, that's a good one.
Okay. Now, you started by assessing security. And from yesterday, we touched on some of the hotspots that were addressed from before the elections. One of them that kept coming outside of the regular blip in our system was Idare. And we keep asking our indigents that we've had on the show regarding the peculiarity surrounding the Idare instance and instability or disturbances when it comes to elections. Did you hear about the instance of ballot snatching there in Idare? And from before, the rancor or the fights that have, instances of violence that had happened before the elections. What's your take on that as well? Mr. Ayodele. Oh, seem to be having issues with reconnecting to Mr. Ayodele.
The gremlins are doing it.
I think your network is bad, Mr. Ayodele. If you're speaking now, we actually can't hear you. We'll try and reinstate that so that we can get that information from you. You're frozen now.
The internet is, the gremlins have done its thing as usual. But Emmanuel, if you're still there, let's continue that conversation as we try to fix up Mr. Dr. Olonfewi's audio there.
Yes.
Yes, we're back. Please go ahead with your submission.
Is he back?
No, it's okay, Emmanuel. You know, it's fine. We'll get to you, Emmanuel. Emmanuel, let's continue, shall we? And let me ask you. We're talking about, you know, as with your observation of the elections, what then will be? Let's talk electoral reforms. You know, long term. We know that this off-cycle elections will be the last for Mahmoud Yakubu, and then we will see another installment with a new chairman. We do not know who would be, if Mahmoud would continue his administration or if another would be recommended. But if the electoral reforms, the discussion for electoral reforms was to come back on the table, what would be the recommendations from Ready to Lead initiative?
You know, we've talked, I gave some talking points about 5 points. Talked about accessibility to people living with people with disabilities, you know, and the unreserved community. They should be able to access polling units without any barrier. Beavers shouldn't be having issues at all, like at all. There's more than enough time to work on it when you have an off-cycle elections, you know. Then as the vote buying should be criminalized. You know, it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen at all. All relevant agencies, maybe INEC, EFCC, and ICPC, and maybe other agencies should come together and see what can be done moving forward on the issue of vote buying, you know. And also, yes, there shouldn't also be any form of interference. Like, everyone should go about, if you're supposed to be a security, go about doing your job diligently, you know. And also, there shouldn't be issues of logistic operations like delays, whereby we have many of our observers that get to the polling units as early as 7:30, and then we don't get to see anyone at the polling units 2-3 hours after. Like, these things shouldn't be repeating themselves, you know. So there needs to be a lot of coming back to the round table to see how many of these issues can be addressed. And there's still a whole lot that we are going to put out there, and we're still going to meet with lots of relevant stakeholders to recommend a lot of things to them to see that moving forward, we have a better electoral system in Nigeria.
All right, so we've been informed that Dr. Ayodele is back. Dr. Ayodele, you were going to give a submission regarding the instances in Idare and election violence. Please go ahead.